All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Meeting has been noticed to Evan Print and Media Group, WCOW Radio, Magnum Radio, La Crosse Tribune, Sparta City Hall, and Sparta Free Library. Mr. Russ, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, they're not.
All right, I will request a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion from Ms. Prestwood. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. McKenna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, if we would all please stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Russ, if you could please read our SASD mission statement.
To educate all students academically, emotionally, and socially to inspire curiosity and resilience.
Thank you for that. Public input, we have Mr. Derek Poss. Derek, so we give about 2 minutes. Mr. Russ will keep track of that and just let you know, but if you just want to make sure the green light is on.
Yep.
All right, podium's yours. Thank you.
All right, hello, everybody. My name is Derek Poss, and that natural. Okay, so my name is Derek Poss, and I'm here to represent the for the third time. My name is Derek Poss, and I'm here representing the Sparta Robotics team. I used to be the head of electrical team. Now I'm just a member of the electrical team. I have been really committed to this club so much that I decided to come up and talk to you about what we've been doing. So some of the things that we've been doing is we recently, over this past year, were able to build a robot and get to regionals. And from there, we were able to get to finals twice, wherever we got second place both times. After that, we decided to look more upon the outreach. So now we are trying to get water bottle sales into the mix and also some plaques, like those beautiful plaques right in front of you with your names on them. We hope to eventually sell them to sports teams and whatever, so then they can have awards. Yeah. We soon plan to start a booster club using parents from the club and maybe some community members, but we hope that our finances can become independent from the schools with a booster club. So to wrap things up from my little speech, I just wanted to show you all how robotics was doing, and thank you for listening.
Hey, thank you so much, Derek. Hey, quick question for you. So what is your favorite part of being in robotics club? I mean, is there anything specific that, you get really excited about?
Well, Lee right now is kind of looking at me, so I'm gonna have to say read the manual. But I do like seeing the new games every year and having to adapt around those challenges, like the challenges we experienced during COVID-19. I recall that we were the first club to open up, and I think our robotics experience of being able to adapt and overcome really helped with us to make COVID policies that soon other clubs followed.
Are there any other board members that have a comment or a question? Mr. McKenna, go ahead.
Yeah, can I put you on the spot? I'm just curious, do you know approximately how many kids are involved in robotics now?
Last year, whenever we had the second place twice, it was about 20. This year, I think we about doubled in size. We had about 50 freshmen signed up and about 40 active members. So I say right now we've gotten a lot bigger. Yeah.
That's great. Congratulations.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Prestwood?
Yeah, real quick. It was 18 total for you two counting.
That's awesome. Any other questions or comments? Well, that Sparta Robotics sweatshirt is my favorite sweatshirt. So I just want to say thank you for everything. Appreciate
Oh yeah,
it.
and these sweatshirts I believe are going out for sale soon now. Another month or so. But I guess in a month or so, whenever we have Irene come up, we can tell you about that website and the sales about it. But yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
That's
Thank you, Derek.
probably my favorite public input. That was good. All right. Yeah. All right. Item 2, reports. Montessori High Point sales report, Dr. Wendy Burnett.
Dr. Wendy, if you want to just nod, I got the clicker. So
Great, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about the beginning of our school year. So I just wanted to share a couple of pictures with you of the beginning of our school year. There's been much change at High Point this year. We have a new teacher, Miss Ontiveros, who is doing a great job. We've been working on community and our student body is growing. So maintaining and growing our sense of community is a continual challenge, which I think it is in any situation like that, but it's a good problem to have, a challenge that we're enjoying. We are also working on meeting the same expectations that we've always had, but we're working on making them more well-defined and making sure that the students know exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing and what they have to do to meet the expectations that we have for them. This year, we revamped our project process to include our elective process, and we increased our number of students. Our enrollment right now is at 42. And we do have an interview next week for another student to come in second semester. And last year, over the year, we added about 10 students. So we don't have the capacity to do that this year. So another good problem to have. Some of the things that we did with our project process, and you've probably heard me say this before, but we've identified the essential standards that all of our kids need to know before they leave our school. And we are working on creating rubrics for every part of our project. So our kids know exactly what they need to do for each part and how deeply they need to know each one of those standards in order to secure that standard. And I think that's it for High Point. We had a junior go on a field trip with the high school yesterday who went to the education fair. And so we've been able to work with Mr. Ford a little bit to kind of share some of those things that we wouldn't be able to foot the bill for if we were doing it by ourselves. So we really appreciate that as well. Okay, Mr. Russ, next slide, please. So also I want to share a little bit of how Montessori has started our school year. We've had a great beginning of the year. I've been outside greeting students as they're dropped off in the mornings, and it just makes my day. You can see the pictures here on the top left. That is Miss Amy Stockert's class learning in Montessori. There are 5 great lessons that they learn. This is one of them. I have a note to tell me what it is. They are able to see a few different experiments during this lesson: a volcano erupting, solid, liquid, gas with an ice cube melting, and layers of the earth using honey, oil, and blue water layered in a glass jar. This lesson is to get students interested in and excited about the geography and culture. So it's a little bit different maybe than what you might usually see, but the same sort of curriculum. And then on the bottom right is a pancake breakfast that was in Miss Lobach's room. Yesterday, our E2 kids, which is students in grades 4, 5, and 6, went to Pineview Campground out at Fort McCoy and spent the day out there exploring nature. They are doing their Wisconsin unit this year. So they had speakers come in and talk about animals that live in Wisconsin and plants. And it was a great time for everybody. The enrollment at Montessori this year right now is at 187, which is at or maybe just a little bit higher than it was pre-COVID. So we're excited about that as well. And last but not least, we have sales, and I shared a couple of pictures on the next slide. On the top left is the first day of school, just kind of learning the ropes and getting used to what the daily schedule will be. And on the bottom right is when Mr. Russ came in to talk to our government class. So the kids enjoyed that. And then on the next slide is a field trip, a walking field trip they took to go to the playground by the police station to kind of clean up some of the mess that had been around there. Next week, they're going to Mr. Hendrick's Apple Orchard to pick apples to donate to the food pantry. So that's awesome. Right now, our enrollment sits at 49 students. You heard from Mr. Liebachen a few weeks ago, who recently got a grant for a food forest. The plot has been chosen. The students are designing and mapping the layout this week. They've already researched and found rationale for the plants that they want in the food forest and where to place them. So that's moving right along. And I'm really excited about that. And the kids, I went in there this morning and they were talking about where they were going to find more cardboard to cover the grass before they started planting. So I was asking them some questions about where do you think that you might be able to find some extra cardboard, or who could you ask? So they're having a great time with it. So questions about the beginning of the school year?
Questions or comments from any board members? I just had one quick question. The food forest, that's going to be located at Sales, or is that at the high school? I know there was some communication back and forth, so I just wanted to clarify.
It's going to be at Sales.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, Dr. Burnett, I think you're on the 2022 summer school report as well.
Indeed. So summer school this year went really well. I decided to just put a slide together with kind of some numbers. The days in the summer session this year were 52. That includes 30 days or 6 weeks of enrichment courses, such as flourishing in first, or like a readiness course for the next year's grade, and enrichment courses such as Watch Me Knit, a Biking We Will Go, Wild Sparta, things like that. Additionally, were days like Spartan Fit and some credit recovery courses. So the session ran for 52 days, but the core of our K-8 courses ran for 6 weeks or 30 days. Our total summer school minutes for resident students this year, which is part of the equation to determine our funding, and Ms. Hauser can maybe tell you more about that, but there's a lot of numbers. But 6,061,025 minutes were attended or enrolled by our students who came to summer school this year. Online minutes were new this year. We have not offered online courses with the exception of 19 and 20, when we kind of had to, because we had students who needed our support and couldn't get them all into the building because of COVID. But we did offer a couple of online credit recovery courses or credit bearing courses this summer that we can now count. Our total FTE for summer school is 128, and that comes from the number of minutes up above, and that stands for the number of teachers. I'm not even sure why they use that number, but it goes into our 3-year rolling average and figures into our funding. The number of resident students pre-K through 12 who attended summer school courses, 822. We offered 7 readiness courses, that is off to pre-K through entering grade 5. So that's the 7. We offered 40 different enrichment courses, 9 credit recovery or credit bearing courses, including credit recovery for the middle school and high school, and 2 online, 8 different music classes, and our nutrition services department served 22,988 meals over the summer. And WIN served 181 students at Herman. And I also included swimming lessons because we do have a partnership with the Parks and Rec Department where we offer swim lessons at no cost for our resident students through the school district. So that's just a few numbers. After summer school was over, we had a meeting and invited the stakeholders from summer school to discuss the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to summer school, what are we doing well? What could we improve? So you can see on this slide that strengths and weaknesses are kind of internal and things that are controlled by us, and opportunities and threats are external things and things that are kind of coming from the outside. So the things that we came up with are on the next slide. And I just kind of picked highlights. We came up with other things, but these are the highlights that I chose. So one of our strengths is our variety of offerings. We felt that the number of courses that we offer to our children is significant. And we offer an all-day option for our kids. They can be dropped off at 7:30 in the morning, and parents can pick them up at 3:30 in the afternoon with our programming in the morning and then WIN in the afternoon. One of the weaknesses that we identified is the timing of our credit recovery. We need to look at that more closely. We have to have so many minutes for a high school course in order for it to bear credit, which makes it difficult to schedule with busing. So that was one thing that we need to improve upon next year. One opportunity is to work more closely with the city with the partnership that we already have for swimming lessons. We think that we could probably work more closely with things like maybe rag ball or other things that they offer during the summer, and or Fort McCoy, to strengthen our summer partnerships with them. And then one threat that we identified is that all of our communication is online, and so sometimes people don't read their email. And so that's a breakdown in communication at times. So we need to brainstorm about better ways to get out our information. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from board members? I just had one quick question for you. So with more than a quarter of our district students going to summer school, are you feeling the support that you need from, are the educators feeling the support that they need to be able to educate those students throughout the summer? Because that's a big number.
It is. It is. I think that we could always do better.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Russ, please.
So kind of going off that, if you take a look at the slide that's up there, about it's about a third of our kids are involved with this, a little bit, third to a fourth. That is a major investment in the district, and Dr. Burnett oversees everything. Blanks, oh, there we go. But this is a team effort between food service, 23,000 meals. That's got to get out there, because I don't know if our community really understands this sort of commitment that we give to our community. Online classes, total FTEs, over 6 million minutes of instruction that we had with our kids. So it's a team effort with Southwest, custodian and buildings and grounds, nutrition services. We also have year round with for students with special needs. So this is a true collaboration partnership that we're very proud of, and Dr. Wendy's done a very nice job in. You're right, when we go through the SWOT analysis, we always want to improve, but these numbers are very large and a big undertaking. So thank you very much, Dr. Wendy, and to all the collaborators who put this on.
Perfect.
I certainly could not have done it by myself, and I appreciate everyone very, very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burnett.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Glant. Sparta High School World Language Report.
We have Ms. Glant and Ms. Yeskus here tonight.
Good evening. Ms. Yeskus and I are happy to be here this evening to talk about a few highlights from our World Language Department. And we do have 2 more members of our department who were not able to be with us tonight. So first, I would like to just point out that the items that I'm going to show are the second semester highlights of our Spanish 2 curriculum. And the first slide shows that we were working on reading skills. And this is a really important part of building skills across our entire curriculum. And in our reading, we have audio visual input, which was videos that were supported by reading, and the kids were able to hear the words, they were able to see the video, and they're able to read along as they're learning the language. This is really important because they don't naturally know how to say the words and things like that. And so we did a lot of reading where they had all of those different modes of learning with the reading, speaking, listening, and this really helped to boost their comprehension. And so if you take a look at our next slide, we were able to then move into actually reading novels, things such as Don Quixote de la Mancha, of course, is a abridged student version, but with the audiovisual aids that are with the visual aids of the book and some glossary words, the students were able to really work on their summarizing skills, sequencing, determining meaning, contrasting, context clues, comparing characters and plot and things like that. So really ties into our English language arts curriculum, even though we're doing it in a foreign language. So we're really excited about the amazing reading that the students were able to do. We then continued on. Yep, go ahead.
And I just wanted to add a little plug for Mr. Russ, because we came to him and pled for some money for some readers that were comprehensible for our students. And he made that happen for us. And we're still always out there fishing for readers and like shorter stories that are comprehensible for our students, because really like current practice shows and best practice shows that reading is and storytelling is the best way to learn the language. So thank you, Mr. Russ, for that help.
Any other donations to our reading would be great. We need more. Okay. Okay. So we then were also focusing on oral language output. And so I have here a little video that the kids made. So we watched a movie called Octopodi, and this is just a little short, and it has just visual input, and the students actually narrated the story that between them and their partner in order to give the movie some dialogue. So they had to come up with the dialogue that they wanted and then work together with their partner to narrate it. And then they videotaped themselves and submitted that as their assignment. It was super exciting. The kids had a great time. And I think that the video should be ready to play.
Había dos patos enamorados que vivían en un acuario. Tienen una vida perfecta de repente.
Hombre, acá un pueblo del acuario.
Hombre sacó el pato del acuario. El pulpo piensa que el hombre va a matar a su novio. ¡Qué horror!
Okay, you can stop it there. Thank you. It's just a little bit of it. It's a little bit of a longer 2-minute video, but I had a playback for the students after they did it. I did a nice collage of like a few minutes of every student's video and put it all together. And then we watched it as a class, and they were really excited about the final product that we had for that. It was pretty exciting. All right. After that, we started working diligently on our writing skills. And I have here one small descriptive essay that the kids did. So everybody chose a picture of their dream bedroom. They then labeled all of the items in their dream bedroom, and then they had to write a descriptive 1-paragraph essay describing where everything was in their bedroom and what colors things were. And it was a pretty fun assignment for them. And then they got to put in the designs, and we hung the posters in the hallway. And it was really exciting to see the kids come down the hallway and grab their friends and drag them over there to show their posters. They were very pleased with their progress. And again, this is just a Spanish 2, and this is pretty good work for kids only in their 2nd year of ever studying a language. All right, and the next one shows how we progressed. So we did that 1-paragraph essay, and then we actually were able to pump out a 3-paragraph descriptive essay in Spanish. And this was very exciting for both me and the students. We were writing a letter as if we were about to go live with a family in a foreign country, and we were introducing ourselves to the family and letting them know, like, we're about to come, here's a little bit about me. And so in their first paragraph, they were able to describe themselves and things they like to do, things they like to eat. And then they moved on and were able to describe their family, who the members of their family were, things that they like to do together as a family, places that they went on vacation. And then in the final paragraph, they talked about like their local responsibilities, what are their chores, what kind of things do they have to do to be a productive member of their family and ask about what kind of things they would be expected to do as part of their new family. So this was like, we were really concentrating on trying to make real world application of our curriculum. And we're pretty excited that we think that we have done a really good job of trying to make this like actually like what you would do in real life if you were to use the language. So I think for a 3-paragraph essay for Spanish 2 kids is some pretty impressive work. All right. And then if you take a look at our next slide, here is some group skits. Again, with our real world, this is a mock situation where they had to walk into a store and they had to purchase something and someone had to be the cashier and the other students had to be the shoppers and go buying stuff and ask about price and, oh, this doesn't fit me and what size do you maybe have? And then they had to walk over and get a new one and, oh, I only have this color, but I want that color. So it was really real world, again, application of our language. And if you could play a few seconds of the video, that'd be great.
Hola, ¿en qué puedo servirle?
¿Tienes trajes de baño?
Sí, esos están ahí.
Gracias.
¿Tienes gafas de sol rojas? No, nosotros tenemos gafas de sol rojas, pero tenemos gafas de sol verdes.
Bueno, ¿dónde están?
Están a la derecha de las faldas.
Gracias.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Me queda bien. ¿Cuánto?
Okay, so just another example. The kids had an amazing time doing the skits and they were so excited to show them to their classmates and to see each other's videos. We had a really good time with those. All right, and then next up, we did travel albums. And so we did like a mock trip from the north of Venezuela all the way down, and we went to every Spanish-speaking country in South America. And they had to make a photo album of their journey. And then they had to write about the highlight of their trip from every country. So they researched and figured out like what is the most amazing thing to see in Colombia or Venezuela or Argentina. And then they wrote about it. And then they made album pages for each one of their countries. And was the link working on that? When you click the picture, did it? I wasn't sure if it was going to open or not. If you'd have, I wasn't sure if you'd have access to it. I tried to make it so that it would work, but maybe not. Okay. So anyway, so if you could see the amazing work inside of this album, yeah, I guess it's not gonna load. Okay, thank you. But each page was dedicated to a country and they put in pictures and they wrote about what they went and saw. And again, this was a 10-page book that they wrote in Spanish too. So I just really want to point out that this was like, Ms. Iescas and I have never been so proud of our students. They did such amazing work. So I wish that would open, but sorry. Okay, all right, go to the next slide then. Okay, and then just kind of wrap things up. We, of course, have our applied language, which is that we took the kids on our trips this past summer to Germany. We had 24 people who traveled to Germany with Ms. Hagen and Mr. Cook. And then we went off to Spain and Portugal and had an absolutely amazing time. I just cannot thank the board enough for approving these trips for our students. It just makes me emotional thinking about it because we had such a good time. The culture that the kids get to experience and the using their language and the smiles and the joy when like something went really amazing and they said something and someone understood them. I'm just so grateful that I could be there with them on that. And this next summer, we're going to be going to Panama with 31 students are currently signed up. And I have more who keep asking, like, is there room? And I'm like, I got to call the travel agency and see. So we have a full slate of students scheduled to go. And we are very excited about that cultural experience that we're about to have. And we also have a trip for 2024 that we're going to start promoting really soon. So hopefully we'll get as much interest in that as well. Do you have any questions for us about anything? I'm sorry, I know I went over my 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're just fine. No worries.
Okay.
Any questions or comments from board members? Mrs. Lopez.
Yeah.
I would just like to say I am so impressed with that Spanish 2 class. Wow, those language skills, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I took 4 years of French and I couldn't speak that much French after that. And also, I spoke with a student who was on the Germany trip the day after he came back. And I said, what was it like? And he said, life-changing.
Yes.
So I just want to thank you very
Yes,
much. I'm
thank you.
impressed.
Thank you.
My Ethan said the same thing. He said it was life-changing, Mom. The pictures don't even do it justice. So from a parent whose son went on this trip with you, you did everything right. Everything was planned. When anything happened, you let us know. So I'm very appreciative of that, especially with the hiccups that happened.
There are always many.
So thank you for that opportunity and that the school district is able to provide those opportunities to our children. So
Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
amazing. Okay, on the last slide, I have just a few minutes of a video of this trip. And if you have a minute, I'd really love you to watch just at least a minute of it. Okay.
Hoping you take that jump, don't feel the fall. Hoping the water rises, you will fall. Hoping the crowd screams out, screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you just stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Hey, the only way you can know, give it all you have. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you'll say, I swear I live. Hope that you spend your days, but they all add up. And when that sun goes down, hope you raise your cup. Oh, I wish that I could witness.
I'm not sure if you want him to stop it. It's 5 minutes. So I think, I know Mr. Russ said we had to cut it off already, but if you want to watch any more of it, it should be linked in the slides. And it's just a 5-minute kind of quick population of the trip. And again, thank you so much because we had an amazing time. So thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I just real quick, I just want to echo my fellow board members and saying thank you so much for providing this life-changing experience for these students. So we really appreciate that, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 2D, annual seclusion and restraint report from Ms. Kulig with background music.
That's a hard one to follow. All right, so for seclusion and restraint report, we are required to report this annually to the Board of Education. Above, you'll see the definition of seclusion and restraint. I just want to make note that as a district, we do not use seclusion and restraint unless there is no other option. So essentially, when there's a physical danger to themselves or any other individual, that's when we would use this. Otherwise, we use positive behavior interventions and support to de-escalate our students when they're struggling behaviorally. So this slide right here shows the total number of incidents of seclusion and restraint. So the blue is seclusion and the orange is restraint by building. So this school year, or excuse me, the previous school year, so it's reporting on last year's data, we had 4 seclusions and 12 restraints within the district. The next piece we look at is the number of students involved. So the blue shows the number of students involved in seclusion and the orange shows the number of students involved in restraint. We also look at students with disabilities and without disabilities. So with our seclusion, 2 students with disabilities were secluded, no students without. And for restraint, 3 students with disabilities and 7 students without disabilities were restrained. Also keep in mind with the reporting, anytime our SRO is involved with the reporting, that also has to be reported. So these aren't necessarily all times that our staff had to go hands-on, but if our SRO or another officer had to use a restraint, we also report those as well. This shows the school district's trends when it comes to the use of seclusion and restraint. With the asterisk again of the 2021 school year, we were not in session that entire school year, so that you'll see the numbers dropped there, obviously, but you can see I really like seeing this trend of the use significantly declining as a district, and that just shows all of our staff's efforts on really looking at de-escalation strategies when our students are struggling versus having to go hands-on. So looking at some of those behavior supports we do as a district, again, a lot of our de-escalation training is focused on prevention. So the training prior used to look at how we use the restraints or seclusion. Now we're really taking an approach of teaching those strategies to de-escalate the students with the hopes we never have to use seclusion or restraint. We have problem-solving meetings. So when students are struggling, teams are coming together, looking at how can we better for the student and the staff to support all. Completing functional behavior assessments. So really looking at the why of the behavior and then creating a behavior intervention plan to help support the students. So once we know the why of the behaviors, then we can really look at positive ways to either teach the skill or be proactive when a student begins to struggle. Again, as I was saying, looking at those lagging skills and focusing on that instructional piece versus the consequences. So where are the students struggling? Just like we look at reading, writing, and math, we also look at through the behavioral lens as well, including social emotional instruction, as well as that responsive classroom training. The mental health support, so making sure the mental health needs of our students are being met through our school counselors, outside providers coming into our buildings with a connection of our mental health navigator. And then anytime there is an incident of seclusion or restraint, we have a debriefing meeting. So we look at what did we do and how can we improve next time with the hope to prevent it in the future. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from board members? Mrs. Lopez, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. If we go back to slide number 36, the SASD trends.
Yeah.
At what year did you begin these de-escalation training procedures? Is it at the 1920 or the 1819 or?
Correct. So the
Okay.
1819 is the year that I started in the district and we really started working through some of those strategies. But when we really made the shift was at 1920 after we got some of those procedures in place.
And also in the debriefing meeting that you have, who is involved in that?
Great question. So it's anybody that was involved in the incident of the seclusion or restraint. If parents are available, we try to include them, but with parent schedules sometimes they're not available, where then anytime a seclusion or restraint is used, we're always in contact with the families. So they know within 24 hours, I will say it's never that long unless we're struggling to get a hold of the parent, but they're always aware of what happened and what was communicated within the debriefing meeting. Kind of depends on the parent's availability.
Okay, thank you. That
Yeah.
was my next question. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Mr. Russ, go ahead.
In going after the debriefing, this is, we don't want to go hands-on, but we also want to make sure that we offer supports to those staff who goes hands-on, because that's not what they want to do. So we give them the support, make sure we debrief with them. Are you okay? What can we do to help? How did things go? So it's really a team effort that it's focused on the students in the debriefing. How can we move forward? But it's also focused on our staff, supporting them, because that's not easy to do. And they're trained to do it, but it's still not easy to do. So I want to put that piece into that. We want to make sure that we take care of our staff as well.
Thank you for that, Mr. Russ. Thanks, Ms. Coolig. Ms. Hauser, the 22-23 budget update.
So at the committee meeting 2 weeks ago, we talked about mainly funds 10 and 27. So that was our focus. That's our general operating budget. We did not cover the remaining funds that are also presented as part of our annual meeting and our budget hearing. So tonight I'm going to give just a couple updates on funds 10 and 27. And then I'm also going to go over our other funds in more detail. And then later on in the agenda, we'll talk specifics about mill rate and debt defeasance. So for now, we'll focus just on the total budget. So in funds 10 and 27, which is for general operations, I have confirmed our open enrollment numbers. So as part of our annual pupil count that we go through in September, the first week of that is confirming open enrollment with the other districts in the state. And so the first column is our original estimate based off of the number of applications we received this year. And then that column, that's that lighter yellow color, that's the revised estimate, which is based off of our actual pupil count. So that's the number that we'll be going forward with for our original budget. And what you can see is we had a couple small decreases on the open enrollment in, but we had some larger decreases to our open enrollment out, which this is positive because that decreases the expense for open enrollment out. So we had, for example, 313 regular education students applied for open enrollment, but confirmed 272 did go through with the open enrollment. So that was positive news, not only from the students who stayed in our district, but also budgetarily in that we had a net savings in our expense budget. Other changes to revenue. So the inter-district payments is that open enrollment revenue. Additionally, we had to add some additional educational assistance that were not part of our previous budget. And those we are paying for with ESSER funding, and they equal just over $100,000. And so those federal revenues are increasing by an additional use of ESSER for some educational assistant needs. Our salaries budget did have some changes of $220,000 to our contracts. That's just about 1% of the total salaries budget. Part of those $100,000 would be those additional educational assistants under ESSER. And then the remaining differences are as we continued to have turnover the few weeks leading up to school and even the first couple of weeks of school, that's reflecting the effects of that turnover. With benefits, again, we have now wrapped up the enrollment of benefits for all of our new employees and our turnover. And so we did estimates with health insurance and dental insurance. And now we have the actual changes that were done through the beginning enrollment process, which did result in $200,000 roughly of additional cost. And so when we take all of those changes for funds 10 and 27 together, our total budgeted revenue increased $7,920, and our total budgeted expenses actually decreased. And so this was a net change to our fund balance to the positive of 33,000. So we were planning that we would be using 453,000 of fund balance of that revenue stabilization. And now we're looking at 420,000. Which means that of the revenue stabilization that the board set aside, we would still have 154,483 remaining or unallocated at this time. Fund 39 is our debt service fund. And the second column is the preliminary budget that will be presented at the annual meeting. We have a transfer from Fund 10 for the final payment on the Herman land. We have required debt payments. So this is per our debt amortization schedule of 2.2 million. In order to equal the amount of debt that we levied for last year, I have defeasance number 1. So the required payment and defeasance number 1 together equal $5,070,000, which is the same amount we levied last year for debt. And then this illustration is based on a mill rate of $7.49. So if you recall what we talked through at the finance workshop was that in essence, we can back into our total amount for defeasance based on what we would like our mill rate to be. And I'll go into more detail about that later, but that defeasance number 2 line, that amount may change based on our conversation later this evening. This illustration is based on 749 mill rate. And then we have a little bit of interest income. As far as expenses, again, the principal and interest may change based on what we decide later tonight to go forward with to the annual meeting. But again, this is based on a 749 mill rate. And the reason that we carry a fund balance in Fund 39 is for the fall debt payment. So we have a debt payment due the following year before we receive any tax levy income. And so per DPI, you carry a fund balance in Fund 39 to cover that first debt payment of the following year. And we do that every year. Fund 46 is our capital improvement trust fund. We have a beginning fund balance of $3,953,717. At this time, I have not budgeted any transfer from Fund 10 that typically is decided on in June or July of the end of the fiscal year. And so our only income this year would be interest income. For expenses, we still have remaining expenses at Memorial Field of over 2.3 million. We also have set aside money for the high school HVAC chiller project, which has already gone through board approval, and for the mat hoist for the wrestling mats at the middle school, which has already gone through board approval. And so where that leaves us is a fund balance of 1.3 million, of which we have set aside 442,000 for high school auditorium, which I have an update following this report on where we're at with that process. And that we still have unallocated funds remaining of 860,000. Fund 49 is the spend down of our debt proceeds for our Herman Elementary construction project. We are starting this year with just over $1 million in that fund, with the only income being our interest income. As far as planned expenses, we have some things that we have been looking into, have not necessarily brought them to the board yet. We have that full $1 million that we can use for Herman Elementary. I'm starting out the budget this year using about half of it, or 598,000, and leaving that remaining 500,000 in fund balance. But we can change that throughout the year if we find some needs for that. Fund 50 is our nutrition program. We are starting with a very healthy fund balance of over 470,000, which is the highest fund balance we've had in many years. However, we're anticipating that we'll need to use that fund balance for operations this year. As of right now, we have a significant decrease in our federal aid due to the stop of the free meal program. And so our meal sales are increasing instead. And as far as expenses go, really the food expense is the unknown right here, just with inflation and supply chain issues. We continue to still get notifications on issues with supply chain. And so we're anticipating this budget will probably change frequently throughout the year, but we're starting with the use of probably about 150,000 of that fund balance for operations this year. And then finally, we have Fund 80, which is our community service fund. And so we're starting with a fund balance of just over $108,000, with 86,000 of that being for the WIN program. So last year we levied $500,000 for WIN, and largely due to not having the staffing we had anticipated, we ended with some remaining funds of those, which we're using to offset some of the costs this year. And then we also had some carryover fund balance for different community education programming that we've done where our revenue has exceeded our expenses. So going to the revenue projections for Fund 80, we plan to levy $20,000 for the parenting place, the same $500,000 for WIN. This is based on also using that fund balance because we have had some pay rate adjustments in WIN. And then we'll also have a tax levy for the middle school activities and athletics this year of $105,000. And then the $5,000 is for if we do any programming that we charge fees, such as a camp or an adult education class. For expenses, salaries and benefits will be for our WIN staff and also for our coaches for our middle school activities. Purchase services is the $20,000 for the parenting place, and then also services for WIN such as transportation and field trips. And then we have supplies. And where this settles out with our ending fund balance is we're anticipating that we will use up that fund balance for WIN, and that as long as we continue to have the staffing that we're planning on, that will end with a minimal fund balance in Fund 80. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from board members? I just had a couple. If we could, Mrs. Lopez, I know, I think you had brought up wondering when the debt payment would be made. Do you know offhand when we would be planning to make that debt payment if we went through with the mill rate? I'm trying to think. The last year we did it in the early summer, wasn't it?
Yep, so we have our required debt payments for our amortization schedule, which are in September and March. And then we also have a debt defeasance payment, which we really can do at any time, but typically we would do that in May, June, kind of late spring, early summer.
I feel like we did it in June. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I brought that up. Also, if we could go, could you go to slide 41, please? So I've had a number of constituents ask this. Oh, sorry. So I just want to clarify our numbers here a little bit. So last year we had our open enroll outs. We're right around 290 students, correct?
Correct.
Approximately. And so we were projecting a few weeks ago that we were going to have around 313 out. And as of just recently, we are actually looking at 270 students. So it's not as large of a number as we had thought, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, just for our constituents to understand and to see that, I feel that it's really important, especially with the amount of conversations we've had. So this is very exciting from a district standpoint. And again, we appreciate that. So we appreciate you trusting your students with us. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much, Ms. Hauser. Item 2F, the high school auditorium update, Ms. Hauser and Mr. Russ.
All right. So as I mentioned in our Fund 46 budget, we had earmarked about $440,000 for renovations to the sound and lighting in the high school auditorium. Now that we're wrapping up the Memorial Field project and looking towards the next project to focus on, this is where we are recommending beginning. So the process is that we can't submit an RFP out to the public yet because we don't have the expertise as far as the details of what exactly we're looking for. So we may know what type of productions we want to do or what type of events we want to host, but we don't necessarily know the specifications of the equipment that would get us the result that we're looking for. And so the first step is there's firms out there who specialize in coming in and holding interviews and talking to the different stakeholders and really determining what our need is and looking at what we have and helping us write a RFP that really reflects that so we can get the most accurate pricing when we go out to look at the people who come in and actually install the systems and sell us the equipment. And so what we've been doing is gathering information on firms who specialize in this. And so we have that list ready to go, and we will be starting to make contact to those vendors and begin that RFP development process. So after we get that RFP developed, we'll submit it out to applicable firms, which is a similar process to what we follow for most of our RFPs. And then we'll go through that selection process. So when we get the proposals back, we'll look at them. Cost and is one factor, but we'll likely have a rubric system similar to how we do with our other processes. And so once we get those proposals back, one of the things we'll be looking to see, can we accomplish what we're looking for with a $440,000 budget? And do we need more, or are we going to have some excess or so on? And so based off of that, we'll determine the project scope and what other resources we may or may not need. And we'll keep the board updated along the way. But ultimately, once we decide that this is for sure something we want to go forward with, again, the plan is to use Fund 46, which, as you guys are aware, per DPI, I need board action before I can use any money in Fund 46. So once we have the scope defined, we'll take board action to confirm if that's a use for Fund 46. We'll sign the contract, and then we'll begin the process with the selected firm. And so that's our update as far as what the process is, and letting you know that we're going to start working on this process in the very near future.
All right, any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Burns Gilbert?
Yeah, I just was gonna ask Ms. Hauser if you have an idea on the cost for the engineering firms to give us that assessment of what we actually need or are looking for.
I do not have a cost, but there will certainly be a cost involved. I don't have that amount yet.
All right, Mrs. Lopez?
Okay, so that was my first question. And my second question is, you have already selected these firms, I believe you said. Are any of them local, or are they national firms? Where are they located?
Yep. That is a good question that I don't know for sure the answer to. Where we got the names of them is we've used HSR for our architecture firm for other projects in the district, most recently Herman Elementary, and they do a lot of auditorium builds and so they have experience subcontracting with many engineering firms who specialize in this type of thing. So that's where I started with reaching out to them and seeing which firms they would recommend. So it wouldn't be HSR, but it would be reputable firms in the industry. And so that's the list that I have to start with.
Thank you. Is this the type of project that involves a committee? Or is this something that for the needs analysis, is the committee involved in that as well? Or does the committee come in after that?
Yep. So a committee hasn't been formed, but there absolutely will be a committee. So I've actually been working with Mr. Blaha up to this point, just to kind of see where to start. So we've been working together on that, first identifying that we need an engineering firm. And so we've been working with Mr. Skylar Erickson and Miss Cami Schneider, just to kind of get the urgency for this. And so they will definitely be a part of the process, but there may be other stakeholders as well. So it will be a committee.
And just one
Go
more
for it.
question, please.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry. If I can remember, I did not write it down. Oh, I know. You mentioned equipment that might be needed. Is there any talk of increasing seating? Or is that possible? I'm just wondering, because I think that we have more students at Sparta High School than we have seats in the auditorium.
Yeah, excellent question. So with this budget, we're only looking at sound and lighting. It would not be an increase to seating. That being said, I will assume that part of the RFP will be that any equipment we purchase, if we did go through an auditorium renovation, that it could be moved and reused so that it wouldn't be that it would be useful if we change the venue in the future.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from board members? The other question I was going to ask, and I don't know if it would be Mr. Blaha or Ms. Hauser, but the formation of a committee as of right now, does that seem a little premature? Does that seem like something that would help gain traction? What are your thoughts or feelings on that as of right now?
My thought is that when we get the firm in place, it would probably be a combination of me and Mr. Blaha and Mr. Russ. And then that firm is really going to give us best practice as far as who to involve, making sure that we have all of the appropriate stakeholder input.
Mr. Blaha, in favor of that? Okay, nodding yes. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Russ, please.
We're planning on this committee administratively. So unless the board hasn't directed us to form this committee yet, this is just administratively driven committee, unless I hear otherwise.
Perfect. Mr. Burns Gilbert, go ahead.
I was just gonna add a plug to, maybe not in the committee, but just to make sure that we're prioritizing that student and community parent, right, input in the process and creating outlets for that.
Yeah, and I could see as the opportunity expands, we hear more information of looking from a board directed committee standpoint. So, but yeah, as of right now, we appreciate the administration moving on that.
Yeah, and for the seating, we used to, about 14 years ago, we had enough seating and then we outgrew it. So we haven't been able to put the school-wide assemblies in there for quite some time.
Thank you for that. All right. Anything further? All right, item 3, consent agenda. Board members, if you could just take a moment, look through the consent agenda, and then I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Burns Gilbert to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Mr. Todd Wells. Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks, Mr. McKenna, Mr. Westwood,
Yes.
Ms. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Shope.
Yes, motion carries 5-0, 2 absent. Item 4A, discussion and possible recommendation to approve a cash flow borrowing resolution. Ms. Hauser.
Thank you. The only follow-up from committee was a request for the full resolution, which was attached in board docs. Otherwise, no changes. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments for Ms. Hauser? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve and recommend to approve the cash flow borrowing resolution.
No.
It should be okay, yeah.
I'll make that motion.
It's considerable.
Okay, I was gonna say.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Burns Gilbert to approve the cash flow borrowing resolution. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Ms. Prestwood. Roll call.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Shope,
Yes.
Ms. Presswood,
Yes.
Ms. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Burns Gilbert.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0, 2 absent. Item 4B, discussion and possible recommendation for the mill rate to be presented at the budget hearing on October 11th. Ms. Hauser.
Thank you. And I just want to start by reminding any guidance or action given by the board tonight is not setting the mill rate. It's not approving the mill rate. It's giving me direction for what to present in the budget at the annual meeting. And then you will actually vote on the mill rate at the last meeting in October after we get the input from the annual meeting. Okay. So just these slides should look familiar. They were presented at the budget workshop. I just wanted to set the stage with some reminders and for anyone listening. So the school tax levy is actually made up of 3 parts. The first part is the revenue limit tax levy, which is what supports funds 10 and 27 or our general operations. So that's the levy that supports us educating all of our students. The second piece is the Fund 39 referendum approved debt levy. And this is the levy that pays down the debt that we've borrowed for referendum projects, which the large one here is Herman Elementary. And then the third piece is the community service levy, which is Fund 80. And we are proposing that this year that would support the Parenting Place, our WIN after school program, and our middle school activities programming. And so we take that total levy that's combined of those three pieces, and to calculate the mill rate, which is what carries through to the tax bills, you take that total levy divided by the equalized property values times $1,000, and that gets to the mill rate. And before we get into the mill rate calculations, I also just like to remind us that although the mill rate stays consistent and can be calculated on each tax bill, the impact of that mill rate, meaning the amount that it varies on your tax bill and the percent, varies based on which municipality you live in, your home value, and the change in your home value. So although the mill rate stays consistent, even if there's, say, a decrease in the mill rate, that doesn't necessarily mean the total school taxes would decrease or increase on everybody's tax bill. It's really based off of factors outside of our control as well. So at the budget workshop, we received a lot of good feedback on what we were thinking for mill rates. At the budget workshop, I came with kind of the floor mill rate, which was a $6.13 mill rate. This past year, the 21-22 year, we were at an $8.29 mill rate. And we had a lot of good discussion about where we thought we'd like to visit mill rates for this coming year. And based off of that discussion, I ran 4 different scenarios: a mill rate of 7.19, 7.29, 7.39, and 7.49. So I just did 10-cent increments. We are not limited to these 4 options, but for the sake of conversation, it seemed like a good place to start. The dollar amounts in the grid are the total levy amounts. So if you're following that blue row across, that's the Fund 10 general operating levy. You can see that levy stays the same no matter which mill rate we're looking at, because that levy is a direct calculation off of our revenue limit. So that's not going to change. Similarly, the levy for community service would stay the same at $625,000, regardless of the mill rate. The only levy that we have the ability to adjust to help set our mill rate is the levy for debt service. And the way that we adjust that is through debt defeasance, which I'll get into a little bit more in a few slides here. But so adjusting that levy for debt service is how we would adjust the mill rate. And you can see any one of these options present a nice decrease from last year's mill rate of 8.29. So going to the next slide, this is just comparing this year to last year. So you can see that our total levy, and the yellow is this year, the white is last year. So the total levy for general operations is decreasing quite a bit. And that's because we've maximized our state aid this year through the spending last year. So whatever we spend in one year, we get the state aid benefit the following year. And then I have a graph showing, just to put it in perspective, this is last year's data, so the 21-22 mill rates, but this is where we are with our like peers. So in other budget discussions, we talk about our like peers, or those neighbors around us who are similar in size to us or in proximity. And so just for information, this is where they were at with mill rates last year. And you can see Sparta is the red circle, and that's where we were at last year. So if we're looking at any of these $7 range mill rates, assuming the other districts are somewhere about where they are, we're pretty comparable. Also, when you look at the district-wide data last year, of the 370 K-12 districts, 128 were at a mill rate of under $8. So again, that just shows perhaps some reasonableness in what we're talking about. I also ran a 10-year history for Sparta on our mill rate. So this is the Sparta School District, and you can see that going back to 2013 or over the past 10 years, $8.30 or 29 cents was our lowest mill rate in 10 years. And so any of those that I showed in the presentation would also be the lowest in the past 10 years. And then finally, Baird, I was able to get a report from them today with what a debt defeasance would look like of getting us to that $7.49 mill rate. So what that would be is a total levy of 7.3 million. And how that would look in the illustration that I currently have, but we can tweak that if we decide to go this route, is that it would cut 2 years off of our debt repayment schedule and part of a third year. So we would reduce our total debt by about 2.5 years, just with this year's defeasance alone. It would equate to interest savings over the life of the debt of about $2.3 million. And it would result in additional state aid next year of about $2.2 million. So again, we talked a lot at the workshop about how that money works for us into the future. And these are the estimates of what that would look like for this year. And with that, any questions before the discussion?
Any questions or comments from board members? Mrs. Lopez?
Thank you. Leah, Ms. Hauser, I think that there was a report from Baird in board docs that I was looking at this morning, or maybe it was in the board notes. I'm not able to find that right now. I thought it was in the agenda under this item. Okay, we're finding it. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Mr. Burns Gilbert, did you have a question or comment? Yep, take your time.
While they're
Mr. Wells, go for it.
Yeah, I'd like to see some data on an 830 mill rate, just to see a little compare and contrast. I think you actually did have that somewhere. I might be mistaken, but if you
So I don't have the actual calculation in front of you, but the bottom note there, approximately every 150,000 of additional levy equals another 10 cents on the mill rate. So, you know, if you're looking to go up another 80 cents, that would be roughly another $1 million or so of debt defeasance.
All right, that sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Mr. Burns Gilbert?
Yeah, I believe it was the comparison slide 72.
I'm sorry, Mr. Burns Gilbert, you talking to the
Yeah,
microphone. That's all.
I believe it was slide 72, just the comparisons of our local folks there. What's Fund 41, that purple?
Yeah, that's a fund that you can levy for some capital improvements. As far as I know, Sparta has not utilized that levy before. We likely wouldn't be able to do that for this year because we haven't gone through planning, but if that's something we want to explore in the future, we could. I honestly don't know a whole lot about it off the top of my head.
But okay.
But it's for capital projects or improvements.
Similar to Fund 46.
Yes, it's my understanding, coming back from my workshop last week, that districts either do 41 or 46, and most districts do the 46.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments from board members? If you could go to slide 74, please. Again, for our constituents, the additional understanding with this, we're looking at that $7.49 mill rate and what it would do for us if we utilize that next year. So we're looking at an 80 cent decrease to the mill rate for the taxpayer. And so we're giving that that reduction, and what we're getting in return is an interest savings of 2.3 million from the defeasance, and then that state aid reimbursement of 2.2 million if we went to that $7.49. Now, Mr. Wells, you brought up a good point. If we were to increase the mill rate, there would be further interest savings, and there would be additional state aid reimbursement for next year as well. So going into that annual meeting, from our constituents that are going to be at the annual meeting, please keep that in mind. So that's important. That's free money. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, Mr. Russ, if you want to guide this conversation, that would be
Okay,
great.
no problem. So what we're looking for now, and Ms. Hauser is going to jump in, is a recommendation from the board that we will bring towards the annual meeting. So numbers of 719 all the way to 749 for budgetary figures that we would present at the annual meeting is a presentation. It does not mean that if you say that we're going to do 749, I'm just going to use that because Ms. Hauser used that the entire time. That does not mean that that has to be set on the end of October. It means for discussion purposes and presentation purposes, we would go in with 749, and then we would have that discussion with their constituents and the electors.
I guess from my standpoint, and I'm open to conversation here, other board members, but I would like to see us go in with the recommendation of 749, but I'd be very interested to have the numbers from Ms. Hauser for maybe like a 779 and like something over $8 just for the constituents. The reason I say 749 is at our board workshop, that was what our constituents, that was the approximate number that we left with, right? I think there was one at 748, there was one at 749. I had the other ones written down, but they're, so I feel comfortable doing that because our constituents asked us for that approximate number. But I do like the idea of having a couple that are a little higher than that, that if our taxpayers decide, hey, we want to save an interest and we want to get more state aid, that we can give them that opportunity and provide that information. Ms. Frestwood?
I would have to agree with you. I would like to also see, a 769, 79, 89, just because as we've done in the past is to not have a huge ebb and flow within our mill rate. So if we drop it, by potentially the 80 cents this year, but then come next year, we have to raise it $1.10, that's going to hit our constituents very hard. I do like the numbers that are presented with the 749, but I just want to keep that in our minds that we're very good at not having that huge up and down. So I would like to see those other numbers as well, please.
Sure.
All right, so I have 749, 769, 789. Further discussion. Mrs. Lopez.
Ms. Hauser, if we did lower the mill rate to 749, 719, would we be looking at an increase next year, given the state equalization aid that we would receive? I thought the conversation was kind of where we would be able to keep it lower for a good amount of time, perhaps.
Yeah. The unknowns going into next year are the biggest is that we'll be in a new biennial budget. And so depending on what happens at the state with governor races and the state budget, we don't know. And that's a big factor with, is there going to be a change to the revenue limit formula? Because that blue chunk or the operating portion of the levy is a direct result of what the state sets for the revenue limit and also what they fund for state aid. So that piece of it is really the biggest unknown. The debt service levy, our required debt payment is about 2.2 million. And so we know that we have a lot of flexibility there, that even if the state, say even that general operating levy, if it were to go up $2 million, we still have a lot of flexibility in the debt service levy. So that allows us to, kind of as one goes up, we can lower the other. And that's a benefit of, the largest benefit by far is the additional state aid and the interest savings. Kind of an additional benefit is that as one of the other levies goes up that we don't have as much control of, we can kind of tap the brakes on that levy so that we can help even out that impact. So we have a lot of room for flexibility with that general operating levy with any of these actions. What that could mean though is if we have a lower mill rate of 719 and we have to use more of that mill rate next year for general operating, that's less defeasance we'd be able to do. So we'd allow ourselves more opportunity for continued high defeasance if we keep the mill rate a little higher.
I wish that everyone could see my, or hear my head nodding. I've learned so much from you and I appreciate that.
Yep.
I would like to say I'm not against a 749, 759 mill rate per se. What I do like about the 719 mill rate is that the total school-based tax levy remains about the same total levy that we collected last year. And it also increases the amount that we can defease by, is it over 2 million, which includes a 40% state equalization revenue the following year. So that's all awesome. The reason I say that is just because given the current financial struggles that people are having, I just think that it would be important for the board to at least acknowledge that increasing the mill rate would increase the total school-based tax levy for our constituents. Lowering the mill rate, but the total levy would go up. Am I correct in saying all of that?
You were correct. That last comment, could you repeat that?
The total amount that we are levying, that we would levy if we went with the 749, for example.
Yep.
Is more than we levied last year. Total school-based levy.
Yep, that's correct. So that's the illustration up here. So the total levy would increase, about $500,000 with a decrease in the mill rate. And the reason for that is the growth in equalized property values.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So for keeping the conversation going here's sake, Mrs. Lopez, would you be open to us making the recommendation of 749, but having the numbers of $7.19, $7.69, and $7.89 all as conversation pieces?
I think that our constituents would appreciate that, and I would as well. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments on that? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to recommend for the mill rate to be $7.49 with the addition of 719, $7.69, and $7.89 to be presented at the budget hearing on October 11th.
I'll make that motion.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Wells. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
I have a second from Mrs. Lopez. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0, 2 absent. Mr.
Okay.
Russ or Ms. Hauser, did you have anything finally on that?
Anything?
Yep. So I just wanted to confirm, or I guess reiterate that the budget that gets published in the paper on Thursday, as well as the budget that will go to the annual meeting, will be based on that mill rate of 749. And that's for discussion purposes at the annual meeting. And then we'll decide 2 weeks after what we want to be at. But just so you're aware, the 749 is the budget the budget will be based around that. And that general operating levy right now is still an estimate because we're still waiting on our final pupil count. So as that general operating levy, I know this isn't the final number for that. I'll have that after we confirm our pupil count. But so if that levy goes up a little, the levy for debt service will go down a little. So I'll make sure we stay at the 749, but just so you're aware, the makeup between those 3 different buckets, it will change a little bit by the time end of October comes.
Thank you for that, Ms. Hauser.
And October 14th is when we're supposed to get our final state allocation. So October 14th, it's usually the 15th, but I was told they're gonna do it on the 14th. So
Thank you, Mr. Russ. All right, item 4C, discussion and possible action to approve grants and donations. Mr. Russ.
All right, we have three for the board approval. Very nice, generous donations. Terry Harrison to the Angel Backpack Program, Michael Rice, part of Stuff the Bus at Hanson's, and J. David Rice in Concert in the Park gave very generous donations for your approval.
So I just want to say thank you to Terry, Michael, and David for all of the hard work and everybody that's there and been with them. That Angel Backpack Program is phenomenal. And in memory of Mr. Harrison there, that's very special. So I will entertain a motion to approve the grants for $1,000 or greater.
So moved.
I have a motion from Ms. Presswood. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Mr. Burns Gilbert. Roll call.
Yes.
Ms. Prestwood,
Yes.
Mr. Shozi,
Yes.
Mr. Burns Gilbert,
Yes.
Ms. Lopez. Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, 2 absent. Thank you all so much for that. We appreciate it.
And some more for, just want to recognize for your information, very generous donations from the following individuals, families, and organizations: State Bank Financial Sparta, Sparta Area Chamber of Commerce, Sparta Public Foundation, on behalf of Education Foundation, on behalf of Collins Burns Gilbert, Christina Heitman, Janice Stuntebeck, Fred Green, various cash donations from the Concert of the Park, various cash donations from IGA Stuff the Bus, Stephen Amy Lopez from Stuff the Bus at Hanson's, Hey Boy Incorporated, Culvers of Sparta at Stuff the Bus, Bonnie Geyer and Lauren Geyer in memory of their parents, Joe and Renee Dolan, Mark Valeni, and an anonymous donor all gave very nice donations. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we
there's
appreciate
more.
those donations. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yep, there's one more slide. Very good, very generous. State Bank Financial Sparta. These are for school supplies for our kids, along with Century Foods, Eric Mann, Sparta Chiropractic, Sparta Lions Club, and Sparta Lions Clubs from the Stuff the Bus at Hanson's IGA. All very kind and generous.
Now with this one, Mr. Russ, I do need to do an approval, correct? I just see it in the upper left corner.
Nope, I think we're okay. These
Okay.
are non-monetary. We're okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks again to all of the donors. Item 5A, meeting schedule, announcements, and information. Mr. Russ.
Okay, we got a lot of announcements, and we have the Cataract Elementary School Committee, Community Committee getting together this week to talk about the RFP process. Our goal is to get that out by Friday or Monday. And then that timeline will be shared. We have a board governance workshop. Dr. Finko's coming from WASB on the 3rd, and this will be at Meadowview. The rest of these will be at Meadowview. We have a policy workshop on the 5th. Committee of the Whole on October 11th, and that'll be at 5:30. And that right now seems like a little light agenda, which is okay, because we will start at 5:30, and then around 6:30, if we're still going, we will pause the meeting. And then at 7 o'clock, we will have the annual meeting. And then at the conclusion of the annual meeting, we will resume the Committee of the Whole. But right now, it's looking like that an hour should be enough for that. And as I stated, the annual meeting, I know Ms. Lopez said some things about, hey, I'd like to see those things, and please state those again at the annual meeting. And once again, we're asking all electorates and people who are interested in learning more about our budget, giving us their opinion in the board. We're all here. October 11th, please come and share your thoughts. It'll be in the paper, and those are advisory, especially when we start talking about the mill rate. But it's very important that we welcome all community members to the 11th at 7 o'clock, and that'll be here at Meadowview. And then we have the full board at the end of the month, the 25th at 7 o'clock. And this is just a reminder that in November and moving forward, we switch to Mondays, the second and fourth Monday, starting at 6 o'clock, that consistent start time. And we just want to confirm and make sure we have the right dates for November and December with the holidays. In November, we have the 2nd and 4th, which is around Thanksgiving. So the second one is the week of people would say deer season. And then we have Thanksgiving in that. So I think we can still stay with that unless there's some objections. For November.
7th and 21st.
Nope, keep going down. 14th and 28th. Okay, so that's for November. December, this is where we run into a little bit of a quandary. The second Monday is the 12th and the fourth Monday is the 26th, I believe. So it'd be our recommendation that we do the 12th and the 19th. It's 1 week apart, but we still keep our community structure. On the 5th, we looked at maybe December 5th and the 19th to get that 2 weeks. However, there's a concert, a middle school concert that we would welcome all board members and community members to go to. So it would be our recommendation to do the 12th and the 19th, if that's okay.
I would stick with that recommendation too.
The
All right,
12th and the 19th?
let's plan
So
for
we'll move
December.
it for the 12th and the 19th of
Thank you.
December. And once again, one last plug for the annual meeting. Please come and give us, the board, their ideas. It's a wonderful meeting and it's the meeting of the electric.
Thank you, Mr. Russ. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. I have a motion from Ms. Prestwood. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Burns Gilbert. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.